ホラーだよ、ホラー。隠れろ、隠れろ。どうもリゴです。さあ、今回なんですが、スキビディトイレのトレーラーを見つけましたので、見ていきたいと思います。その中にカメラマンとかテレビマン、あとタイタンカメラマンのトレーラーもあったので、全部一気見していきましょう。では行く。なんだ、世界観がめちゃくちゃホラーだな。バイオやん、バイオ。ホラーだよ、ホラー。隠れろ、隠れろ。なになになにこんなとこにトイレあるか。目がやべえよ、これ。おい。はい、今みたいな、ちょっとホラーチックなトレーラームービーになってるんですが、この後の動画は、ナレーションが入ってきますので、じっくり見ていきましょう。
The story begins in an abandoned town where something terrifying is happening. In the depths of a dark forest, there is a secret laboratory where scientists conduct forbidden experiments. The scientists' goal was to create a new kind of creature with the highest intellect and strength, but nature decided to play a wicked prank. One unfortunate morning, when the experiment was at its peak, the hapless creature with a head and neck but no limbs slipped out of the scientists' control and ended up in the filthy sewer. It splashed into the bubbling mass of foul-smelling waters and waste, disappearing into the darkness of the underground labyrinth. Over the years, due to mutations caused by chemical substances in the sewer pipes, the small creature transformed into something repulsive and horrifying. Its head became massive, distorted in shape, and its neck grew in length. It became much more than just a monster. This creature left its underground sanctuary and began to wander through the dark pipes, seeking a path to light and life. At last it found a way out. The creature entered another's home with the aid of a toilet. Its eyes burned with merciless flames, and its unbearable hunger made it let out terrifying cries. The inhabitants of the house, sleeping in ignorance of the evil that had crept up on them, awoke to an ominous scream. Horror filled their hearts as they saw the hideous creature approaching them menacingly. The horrible creature spared neither men nor women. Its lifeless eyes stared at its victims with indifference, as if they were mere toys in its hands. On that dark day, the town turned into a place of nightmare. Screams and groans filled the air, and the sound of breaking doors and the crunching of human bodies mingled with cries of despair.
After the appearance of skibidi toilets, fear and terror gripped the world. Cities and countries have been destroyed. No one can defeat these creatures. The leaders of the countries realized that ordinary people could not resist these powerful and terrible creatures. It was decided to create a special squad that would be able to counter this danger. Secret services from different countries joined forces and began to recruit specialists. At the head of the special squad was the scientist Dr. Mortis, an experienced military engineer and scientist. For months, the scientists studied the enemy, looking for weaknesses and developing new weapons. They studied closely the tactics and behavior of the skibidi toilets, seeking to find their weaknesses. Finally, they were ready for a confrontation. A secret squad set out to fight back against the skibidi toilets, but they proved not only stronger, but also smarter than ordinary humans. In the blink of an eye, the special squad was wiped out. Those who escaped were horrified by the power of these creatures. Everyone realized that regular squad would not be able to defeat these monsters. They realized that they needed their own monsters to win. After the defeat, Dr. Mortis came up with a new idea. He proposed a terrifying plan that could stand up to the skibidi toilets. The surviving agents were left with no choice, and they agreed to a risky experiment. Dr. Mortis set about executing his plan. Each agent underwent genetic modification, turning them into something horrible. Their blood was replaced with the blood of captured skibidi toilets to strengthen their bodies, giving them unique properties. The agents' limbs have been replaced with robotic prostheses to enhance their strength and mobility. The agents' heads were replaced with special cameras, allowing them to see at any time of day and quickly analyze and process data, helping them develop effective strategies against skibidi toilets. So the first squad, called the Cameramen, was born. This unit was the first to be able to fight back against the skibidi toilets. After the invasion of the skibidi toilets, the world was gripped by chaos. The only thing that saved the world was a brave squad of cameramen. The next battlefield of this merciless war was the small town of Mandis City. In this town lived the happy family, and one day fate decided to play a cruel joke on them. During a fight between skibidi toilets and cameramans, a defeated toilet fell on the family home. The terrible incident claimed the lives of the entire family except John. The entire house was drenched in the green blood of the skibidi toilets, and John was left alone among the ruins, unable to believe what was happening. He sat in silence for hours, watching his city being destroyed from the ground. Suddenly, a strange sound came from behind a broken TV filled with green radioactive liquid. The mutated blood of a skibidi toilet had gotten into the TV and brought it to life. The TV's circuit boards were covered with a thin layer of nerves, making it conscious and intelligent. The television, which had superhuman intelligence, understood that without a physical body, it would be just a piece of metal. The mutated TV offered John a deal. He would help destroy all the skibidi toilets, and in return, John would have to give him his body. He was left with no other choice. He agreed to the TV's deal, and the two of them began to carry out their insidious plan of massacre and revenge. The mutated TV showed John the detailed schemes and details of the plan to make them one. John followed the instructions step by step, assembling the terrifying technology. Soon everything was ready. All that was left was the final step, to merge with the television and take on a new form. With unwavering determination, he put the mutated TV on his head, and in an instant the blending happened. The TV now had a body and could fulfill John's promise. The destruction of all skibidi toilets on this planet became his main goal. In a short time, all cameramans were amazed at the power of this creature and gave it the TV Man name. One flash of the TV Man's screen left only ash on the skibidi toilets. This is the origin story of TV Man. Humanity was failing. Every day a new, more powerful species of skibidi toilets appeared. Scientists who developed weapons to stop the skibidi toilets were desperate. Nothing worked against these horrible creatures. The only one who didn't give up was scientist Dr. Clark. He conceived a genius plan to destroy all skibidi toilets. He wanted to develop a special teleport gun that would be able to move skibidi toilets to another universe. All the scientists thought he was a fool and freak, saying it was impossible, but Dr. Clark didn't think so. He used all his knowledge to create something impossible to imagine, and after 2 long months, the teleporter gun was ready. When the time came to test the gun, he took the risk because he couldn't allow anyone else to be hurt by his creation. He decided to test the gun on a captured small skibidi toilet. Overcoming his fear, he decides to use his teleporter. He pointed it at the little toilet and pulled the trigger, but instead of a skibidi toilet, it was Dr. Clark who vanished. All scientists watching this experiment were shocked. Upon waking up, Dr. Clark didn't know where he was. The entire planet was a huge radioactive dump. Doctor realized that his teleport gun was broken. For a second he lost hope, but Dr. Clark didn't give up. He started going over the teleporter gun and realized that he could fix it. Without the right tools and parts, it took much longer to fix the teleporter gun. During this long stay, the radiation had changed him. He had grown several times in size, gained in human strength, and his face was pulsing with radioactive blood. Everything was ready. The mutated Dr. Clark opened a portal and immediately entered it. In a couple of seconds he was swept millions of miles away and randomly teleported into an audio store. Due to the failed teleportation, he merged with the store's equipment. His muscles were covered in super strong material, his bones became steel, his blood vessels changed to cables, and instead of a head he now had a speaker. No longer Dr. Clark needed to create a weapon, he became a weapon itself. These horrifying creatures were just ordinary humans, but they suffered the cruel fate of being subjects in the inhuman experiments of a skibidi scientist. In a time when the world was carefree and far from the danger of the terrible skibidi toilets, there lived an old scientist named Bob Hayes. On an ordinary evening when Bob returned home, he noticed an unusual letter. He was invited to join a team of scientists who specialized in the study of human mutations. Arriving at the lab, he was informed that no one had ever seen anything like this before. The secret lab doors opened and something completely unknowable appeared before him. A horrible creature with a huge head, a toilet instead of a body, and a long neck. The scientist was not scared. On the contrary, he was excited by this creature. He was asked to study this unknown creature and uncover his secrets. After conducting a series of experiments, he realized that the creature had incredible strength, did not age, never got sick, and had superhuman intelligence. Bob realized this was his chance, a chance to create something great. He decided to use this creature to create a superhuman with limitless potential and abilities. In secret, Bob stole the creature's blood and began his experiments to create a superhuman. To do this, he needed people, and he kidnapped them. Bob placed the subjects in special chambers and conducted his terrifying experiments. For many months, he tried to develop the perfect recipe for creating a superhuman. Some test subjects turned into strange creatures, others lost their minds, and some simply died. After analyzing his mistakes, he developed a new and improved formula of a serum that was supposed to work. When Bob came close to the next test subject to inject him with the new serum formula, he heard a loud rumbling sound. Someone was trying to break into his lab. The secret squad who had assigned him to study the unidentified creature realized that he had tricked them. Holding a syringe of experimental serum, he had to decide between giving up or testing his invention on himself. Bob had no choice. Before the secret agents broke into the lab, he injected himself with the serum. The mutation began. As they broke down the doors, the agents were shocked. Bob didn't become superhuman, he turned into something completely different. The soldiers opened fire, but it was too late. The monster with inhuman strength began biting each agent, mixing his DNA with their blood. In an instant, each bitten agent began to transform into something terrifying. Their bodies began to shrink. All of their bones turned into bone toilets and creepy necks, with heads extending out of them. It was a success. Bob realized that he was the new super race of superhumans. Now it's his duty to turn all humans on this planet into skibidi toilets. These were hard times for the cameramans and all of humanity. No one could have imagined that a war of skibidi toilets would take so many lives. Whole cities were destroyed in an instant. Millions of people suffered. It seemed that everything was coming to an end. The cameramans ran statistics and realized they were on the verge of destruction. Over the past year, their populations had shrunk many times over, and the number of skibidi toilets had only gotten higher. The cameramans decided to act. They found the location of the main lab of skibidi toilets creation and decided to strike a devastating blow. They gathered their bravest fighters and set out on this risky mission. They knew that getting close to this secret base wouldn't be easy, so they decided to parachute in. In a moment, they were already at the lab. After sneaking inside, they started destroying all the skibidi toilets to break into the heart of the lab and destroy it. But the forces were unequal. The enemy was more powerful than they had realized. In a matter of minutes, the entire squad of cameramans was defeated. Only one of them survived, the most brave and courageous fighter. At the last moment, when it seemed that victory was impossible, his eyes fell on an unremarkable door. He ran into it and realized that it was a classified storage room of skibidi toilet's secret development. Cameraman realized that he was going to die and he needed to complete his last mission. He launched a self-destruct mode to destroy this base and stop the growing skibidi toilets army. The explosion wiped out the lab, but that wasn't the end of the cameraman. The explosion caused all the substances in the secret room mixed with the cameraman, causing him to not only survive, but become something terrifying. His entire body began to transform into something unseen. Finally, out of the fire, he appeared. The terrifying cameraman Titan